All right, guys, so just continuing with different techniques that we can use to get to our training partner's head, start breaking their posture, and then getting their hands to the mat. Another good option for us to use is an arm drag, okay? Oftentimes, there's a lot of different offensive moves that we can hit that will get a defensive reaction off of our training partner that will offer the head to us, okay? And an arm drag is a great one because if I get outside of my training partner's elbows, I create a threat of my training partner's back, okay? And as I start getting outside the elbows, he realizes that if he doesn't start circling away from me, I can start getting a hold of his far hip. If I get a hold of the far hip, I start taking my training partner's back. So when I come out, I take head-to-head position and I take a hold of my training partner's wrist. And from here, I start shooting my hand in race deep for an arm drag. Okay, so we get grip on the wrist, and then we come through and we go all the way up to the armpit, wrist deep. And from here, as I start pulling my training partner's arm across and I start outside stepping outside my training partner's body, from here I'll often reach to the leg or straight to the far hip. Okay, and he realizes that at the point that I start getting past his elbow, okay, there's a threat that I can start getting to his hip and taking his back. So he'll start circling the hips away from me. And as I'm connected to him, as I lose the hips, I can start coming up to the head. And then from here, he's moving the legs and the hips out of the way, so he's bent over more. Okay, and as I get to the head, from here, it's an easy thing to start coming in, start dogging this guy's head down and getting his hands down to the floor, okay? So using an arm drag, if we get the arm drag, great. I get to my training partner's hip, beautiful. Now from here, I'm behind them. Okay, but we use the threat of the arm drag, and just be ready that if he gives you a good defensive reaction, start circling away like most people do. I come through. As I start losing the hips, the head comes towards me, and now he has an exposed head. I have control of his arm, and it's a pretty easy thing for me to start getting a collar tie on him. His head is down, so from here I can start pulling him into a square stance, and I just start pumping my training partner's hands down to the mat, and I get him into usually a 4-point stance, which will allow me to start covering his head. And once the head's covered, it's all about sucking him down to his knees and elbows, okay, and working from that front headlock down on the mat. Okay, so we use the arm drag this time as a setup. If I get the arm drag, great, so really go for the arm drag. Okay, I get a hold of the wrist, top hand position, just like so. I start shooting my hand through. As I start outside stepping, I create that threat of the arm drag. As he circles away, I get to the head. Okay, so be prepared for him to start circling the hips away and then accessing his head. The second I get his head, I start circling him. I start bringing him into a square stance. And once he's in a square stance, we start pulling him down to the floor into a 4-point position. Get his hands to the floor, we cover, we start locking up front headlock. And from here, it's all about dragging him back down to his elbows. I start moving out and away. As I move out and away, we move in one given direction and we suck him into the space that we create. And then from here, we control him down on the mat with front headlock. We can start going in and going into all of our attacks from there.